Welcome back to today's Explainer. I want you to picture something right now. Think about that one task you've been putting off literally all week. You know the one. It's just sitting there heavy on your to-do list, making you feel completely unmotivated. And suddenly, organizing your spice rack or cleaning the baseboards seems like the absolute most urgent priority in the world, right? Well, usually we look at that avoidance and we tell ourselves a very specific story. We say, I'm just being lazy. But today, we are going to completely challenge that misconception. We're diving into some incredibly fascinating insights that prove your task avoidance is not a laziness problem at all. We're going to unpack exactly how to stop procrastinating tonight. And I literally mean tonight, not tomorrow, not next week. Okay, let's dive right into this.
So, starting with Section 1, the lazy costume, it's not laziness.
Looking at this comparison between laziness and fear, for decades, we have fundamentally mislabeled why we delay things. Procrastination is actually a fear problem, and it is simply wearing a lazy costume. When you call yourself lazy, you're basically blaming a character flaw. You're saying something is wrong with you. But when you reframe it as fear, wow, you realize this is actually about emotional avoidance. You see, you aren't actually avoiding the work itself, you're avoiding the difficult feelings that the work brings up. And honestly, once you see that, the fix becomes surprisingly fast.
This quote right here brilliantly illustrates why so much standard productivity advice just fails miserably. I mean, you've heard it a million times, right? Just do it, or just get started. But telling someone to just start is literally like telling someone with a fear of heights to just jump. It completely ignores the whole reason you're stalling in the first place. The task is triggering a feeling. Maybe it's the very real risk of doing the task badly. Maybe it's just the massive, overwhelming size of it, or perhaps it's the crushing boredom of the whole thing. If you try to force the action without fixing that underlying feeling, you are going to stay completely frozen. But fix the feeling, and the task absolutely stops being scary.
Moving on to Section 2. Shrink the entry point, the 2-minute rule.
Whenever you look at a massive project, your brain gets completely overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the whole shebang. But here's the thing. Your brain isn't refusing to write the report. It's really just refusing to write the whole report all at once. So what do? We have to trick it. You got to give your brain a task so ridiculously small that it literally cannot say no. Your goal here isn't to finish the work. Your goal is to open the document and write just one sentence. That's the famous 2-minute rule. We're creating an undeniably small first step to basically sneak past the brain's alarm system.
And take a look at the breakdown of our mental energy in this chart. A massive 90% of the battle is just starting resistance. Only 10% is actually doing the task. That tiny 2-minute step we just talked about works so incredibly well because it attacks that 90% directly. You don't use the 2-minute rule because 2 minutes miraculously gets the whole project done. No, you use it because once you overcome that initial 90% wall of starting resistance, you are finally in motion. And once you're in motion, well, simple momentum just kind of handles the rest of the work for you.
All right, Section 3. Name the real fear, confront the anxiety. The absolutely crucial point here is that unacknowledged fear grows in the dark. So before you even attempt your tiny 2-minute task, I want you to finish this sentence out loud. I'm avoiding this because I'm afraid, and then you just have to say the truth. Are you afraid it's going to be bad? Are you afraid it'll take way longer than you think and completely ruin your evening? Or are you afraid of how people will judge the final product? Whatever it is, you have to prompt yourself to acknowledge the specific fear. And here is how this builds into a really great structured process. Step 1 is simply acknowledging that vague cloud of anxiety that follows you around when you procrastinate. Step 2 is saying that specific fear out loud, just like we practiced. Why? Because vocalizing the exact fear shrinks it. It takes it from this overwhelming, invisible, monstrous force right down to Step 3, a small, concrete issue that you can actually manage. Think about it. If your fear is, I don't know how to format this spreadsheet, well, that is a highly manageable problem. You can just look up a tutorial. But if your fear remains this vague cloud of dread, you can't fight it. You can only hide from it.
Which brings us to Section 4. Flip the waiting cost, the 10-minute timer.
Procrastination basically wins the battle whenever the act of starting temporarily feels harder than the act of waiting. We absolutely need to flip that dynamic. So I want you to set a strict timer for exactly 10 minutes. And here's the magic part of this rule. You must give yourself total guilt-free permission to quit the task the exact second that timer rings. Seriously, if you want to walk away after 10 minutes, you are absolutely allowed to. Let's break down exactly why this is such a brilliant trick. First off, it completely flips the mental math of procrastination. The cost of starting suddenly feels incredibly low because, hey, it's only 10 minutes, right?
Second, as we learned from our momentum chart earlier, most people will actually just keep going once they're in motion. The timer breaks the paralysis. But third, and honestly most importantly, even if you do stop when the timer goes off, you are now 10 minutes ahead of where you were. You've made real, tangible progress, and you've proven to your brain that the task actually won't kill you.
And our final section, Section 5, the 90-second relief, the ultimate payoff. You know, we so often think that doing the work is just going to be this long, drawn-out period of pure misery. But that is actually an illusion. You aren't avoiding the work itself. You are really just avoiding the 90 seconds of intense emotional discomfort right before you begin. It's literally just a minute and a half of your brain throwing a temper tantrum, trying to protect you from perceived failure or boredom. But once you push through that tiny 90-second window of friction, the discomfort just evaporates.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful realizations in this entire explainer. The relief doesn't come when you finish the task. It comes the moment you start. I really want to let that sink in for a second. Procrastination promises you relief by telling you to put things off, but it's a lie. It's a hidden addiction to avoidance. True psychological relief, the exact relief that procrastination was hiding from you all along, floods your system the very moment you cross that starting line. Once you start, the dread simply disappears. So, I want to leave you with a direct challenge today. What is your 2-minute task tonight? Don't think about the massive project. Just pick that one specific thing you've been avoiding, name the fear, and push through those 90 seconds of friction. Once you finally realize that starting is actually the cure for your anxiety, you have to ask yourself, what else could you accomplish if you simply stopped believing your own lazy costume? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to it.